As the undisputed king of emulation, I'm always checking out different mini PCs to see how much value we can get for our dollar. Now, Ace Magician is a company that I've talked about before on this channel. We looked at one of their mini PCs before, and they reached out to me and they're like, hey, we want to send you some more stuff. And it was like higher end stuff. And I was like, that's cool, but you need to send me a cheap one too. And they're like, well, why do you want a cheap one? And I was like, because I want to see how much I can get out of a mini PC that's like $200 or less. So they sent over this, the Ace Magician T8 Plus. Now this retails on Amazon for $199.99, but I've seen it on sale for like $169.99. So we're talking about a sub $200 mini PC here. This thing is like mad tiny too. I did a traditional unboxing, but I don't know what happened to that video footage. So you're just taking a look at it now. We've got 3 USB ports, 2 LAN cable ports, 3 HDMI ports, all sorts of stuff. All the specs are going to be up on the screen here along with the Amazon listing, but I don't care about specs. I don't care about any of that crap. What I care about is how the specs are used when checking out retro gaming. Is this a perfect device to pair with something like the Kinhank retro gaming hard drive that we looked at, to have something with a bunch of games on it, a ton of retro games, a mini PC for $300 or less with the Kinhank drive? Maybe. Now for this video, I did something a little bit different than I normally do. I actually used a different capture device. I used the AverMedia Live Gaming Portable 2 Plus. So that way I wasn't using any resources of this mini PC. Everything was being captured directly from this. So it wasn't using any of the additional resources of the mini PC, so I can maximize performance out of this. I'll have a link to the mini PC, to the Kinhank hard drive that I used, and this AverMedia capture device in the comment section down below. It's an external capture device. You simply just put a micro SD card in here and you're good to go. But whatever. And now that we've gotten all that out of the way, let's look at this system in action. Let's play some freaking video games. Let's see what this bad boy is capable of. So to start things out, we're going to look at some Sega Genesis. I don't check out NES first because I think it's ridiculous. Anything can run the NES. We're taking a look at Aladdin on the Sega Genesis, the superior version of the game, and to really no surprise, Sega Genesis is running flawlessly. I know this is a budget PC, and this is pretty much what I wanted, something like super cheap that you can just attach a retro gaming hard drive to and just have a bunch of different systems on there. I didn't expect Sega Genesis to give me any trouble, and as you can see here, Aladdin is running silky smooth with those beautiful, beautiful visuals done straight by Disney. Can the Super Nintendo version say the same thing? I don't think so. And look, another Genesis game that's far superior on the Genesis than it is a Super Nintendo. We have Mortal Kombat. I love this game, even though my mother made me return it to the store because I was not old enough to have this game in Christmas of '93. But I ended up having my revenge because now as a 38-year-old adult, I own Mortal Kombat for the Sega Genesis, yes, in cartridge form. But yeah, Sega Genesis, no problems whatsoever. To the surprise of no one, your entire Genesis library will work fine on this mini PC. Let's check out some Super FX goodness with Star Fox on the Super Nintendo. This is the revised version of the game that runs a bit smoother than the original version of the game. Yes, there is a difference. And, you know, this was a game that as a kid, I didn't really like it. Like, Star Fox 64 was amazing to me. But the original Star Fox, I don't know, I never really got into it. But as an adult, I've definitely grown to appreciate this and Star Fox 2, honestly. I think Star Fox 2 should have came out officially on the Super Nintendo. Like, I get it, you know, you wanted to focus on the N64, but the damn game was done. Like, just release it here. But yes, your Super Nintendo library, much like your Sega Genesis library, is going to run flawlessly on this system. Of course, your Sega CD is going to be fine on here, your NES, your original Game Boy, your Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, all those wimpier systems are going to run just fine on this mini PC. Next up, we're going to take a look at PlayStation 1 with WCW versus the World. I'm using the DuckStation emulator upscale, and you could see this looks very, very nice. And I was surprised that I was able to upscale DuckStation pretty much to its limits and still get perfect performance with PlayStation 1 stuff. Now, PlayStation 1 is a system that most of the games aren't super taxing in terms of emulation, but when you get into the upscale of things, you know, you kind of gotta tread a little bit more lightly because you never know what's gonna happen. But WCW versus the World is the precursor to the classic WCW NWO World Tour, Revenge, No Mercy. This was the first game in the franchise. Got a really fun roster too. A lot of fictitious characters that are actually based on real characters. You can see here Hogan dismantling Lord Steven Regal. But yeah, DuckStation running great on here, PlayStation 1 running flawlessly, and here's a little bit of War Gods because who doesn't love Kabuki Joe? Now, I will say the one thing about doing emulators and all that sort of stuff is it's always different controls for all different systems. So my gameplay in these videos is atrocious. Like, I'm not a professional player by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm literally trying to figure out these controls as I'm recording footage. So bear with me if the gameplay, you know, as far as my performance looks murky. Some of these games I have, like War Gods, I haven't played that since the N64, but a 3D fighter running perfectly smooth with DuckStation upscaled. So I was very impressed with PlayStation 1 stuff, but you guys know I'm a Sega fanboy, so I got to see how Sega Saturn is performing on this. And what's this? Full speed Panzer Dragoon? Yes, sir. Now, I did have trouble with the one emulator that is available for Sega Saturn that allows you to upscale things, and it just seemed like it wasn't playing anything right, even at native resolutions. So I'm not quite sure what was up with that. I've used that emulator before and it's fine, but this emulator is running the native resolution of Sega Saturn and it's running flawlessly on this system. If you want to bump things up a bit, like you can, you just got to kind of tinker around with different settings, but I think this is good enough for most people. Like, I get it, you know, it's a retro game on an HD television, but just having the Sega Saturn library at your fingertips performing at optimal performance is ideal for most people. Panzer Dragoon running silky smooth, but I gotta get a little bit crazy here. I need the first androgynous character, which, well, I guess technically that was Birdo. The second androgynous character. The first androgynous character to star in a video game. Knights! Look at Knights in all of their glory. Yeah, okay. But yeah, Knights, I freaking love Knights. And Knights is an androgynous character. Just such a great color. Look at the colors in this game. Like, Sega was just so masterful at utilizing colors. But Knights is running silky smooth, absolutely no slowdown. So yeah, Sega Saturn performance with this mini PC, pretty impressive. You know, you can upscale some things. Your performance will probably vary from title to title, but everything I tried to play on the Sega Saturn worked perfectly fine. I had no issues in terms of, you know, frame rate dips or anything like that. So very, very promising stuff. Of course, we're going to get into deeper systems and our mileage may tend to vary, but you know, if you're looking for PS1, Sega Saturn, and back sort of systems, definitely pretty impressive performance thus far. But you know, I got to go further than that. We got to push this system, baby. Let's try one of the most notoriously hard to emulate N64 games with Cruise On, yeah, the USA. And this is running perfectly smooth. Absolutely no issues, no slowdown, no, you know, perceived performance glaring problems or anything like that. So that's a good sign. Pretty much, if you're able to run Cruisin' USA on an N64 emulator on like a device or something, you're pretty much running the whole library with no issues, because I don't know what it is about this game. If someone, maybe MVG, the ex-king of emulation, if you're watching this video, let me know in the comments why Cruisin' USA is so difficult to emulate and like all the other cruising games aren't. But yes, obviously setting the tone here for N64 emulation. I also wanted to play one of my favorite N64 games, Wayne Gretzky's 3D hockey or 3-on-3 hockey, whatever the hell the name of it is. But this game is so awesome. People say, you know, they want a NHL 2-on-2 open ice cabinet from Arcade 1-Up. I want this, baby. I want this game. It has freaking Gretzky in it, and like he's on the Rangers too. Watch this. Watch this. I got a goal coming up here, I believe. Yeah, here we go. Little Gretzky. He's gonna juke past. What the hell? I don't remember my footage well. Okay, here it is. So I'm gonna juke past him. I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, what's that? Oh, you got Gretzky, son. You got Gretzky. But yes, N64 running perfectly smooth on this system. Everything I tried on it worked absolutely phenomenal. So add that to the list of systems that this cheap $200 mini PC can play. What about a little upscaled Dreamcast? Not Dreamcast guy, no, Dreamcast the system. We're running Virtua Fighter 3 Team Battle on the Dreamcast. Super underrated game. I know they only added in 2 new characters, so that's why nobody really liked Virtua Fighter 3. But this game, I think the visual style of this game still holds up very well. This game looks absolutely gorgeous, and it's super old. Like, I don't know what it is about this game. Virtua Fighter in general just always captivates me. I love the deep fighting mechanics of it, and the visuals were always very cutting edge. But yes, this game is super fun, and we're running it at 2 times upscaled resolution, and I'm having absolutely no problems in terms of performance. Another game I'm well familiar with, and I would be able to tell if there's performance issues, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. We got Chad Muska out there doing his thing. His laptop and his skateboard, his 2 main articles of life. I used to be a big Muska head. Muska Beats, I had the Muska Beats CD. Muska Beats, Muska Beats, coming through with the motherfucking woo. Like, it had like Wu-Tang on there, and like Prodigy was on there and stuff. Like, it was dope. It was KRS-One was on there, Flava Flav. But yes, your Dreamcast is gonna run great on this system, and at twice the resolution. So very impressive, very impressive. And now we're getting into the unknown territory, the kind of scary territory. Are these systems going to work? We're going to start out with 3DS, kiddos. Yes, because I mean, Nintendo doesn't let us buy the games anymore, so why should I feel bad about emulating this stuff? And we have Samus Returns, a game that belongs on the Nintendo Switch, but yeah, we've got 3DS emulation running on this. That's worth its weight in gold, because now we're playing 3DS games on a big screen. Now, this was I only have a limited amount of games on the Kinhank drive for the 3DS system. This was the most sort of jump into and out of game as far as the library was concerned. I could add more stuff, but I was just using the Kinhank as it is. I would be interested to see if Resident Evil Revelations runs, because that's a very taxing game for the 3DS. It's probably the most taxing game for the 3DS. But Samus Returns, I mean, that's a late release in the system's life cycle, and to run perfectly flawlessly on this system, very attractive stuff here. So don't let those 3DS game prices scare you off, because you know there's alternatives out there, and for $200 or less, this mini PC is handling it just fine. What about some GameCube at 2 times upscaled resolution? This game is kind of slower, so some of the stuff you'll see is just actually part of the game, but this game was running great. You know, Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee, occasional hiccups. There was like 1 or 2 hiccups in the capturing of the footage. I'm not sure if that's the fault of like a shader caching, or if it's just, you know, the mini PC starting to struggle a little bit, but this was more than playable. You know, it felt full speed for most of the time. See, like right there was a little bit of a hiccup, but that wasn't really impacting the gameplay. As far as the gameplay is concerned, it was pretty much flawless, and I love this game, dude. Why have they not made another game in this franchise? Like, holy, like these big kaijus battling it out, aliens and rockets coming at you and destroying buildings. This game rules ass, and it's running pretty smooth. I probably could have gotten absolutely peak performance going at, you know, native resolution, but at 2 times it was more than playable. And then a game that had absolutely no issues at 2 times the resolution is, of course, Soul Calibur 2. I always have to play this game. It's a 3D fighting game, a graphically intensive game on this system as well. So this is something I feel is a good indicator of what we're getting. And, you know, playing GameCube stuff, 2 times the native resolution, looking damn good doing it as well. That really is opening up this system. Like, think of how much a GameCube and games cost nowadays. So, you know, if you're on a budget and you're looking for a vast library of retro games to play on one simple device, you can get this for like less than $200. Link in the description box down below. Don't forget to use the affiliate link and the Kinhank drive and be set, man. You're spending like $300 and you got pretty much everything at your fingertips. But what about PlayStation 2, you might ask? Well, PlayStation 2 is running perfectly smooth. This is a game that I really enjoy. I have not played it in a very long time, and Juggernaut just absolutely beats my ass in it. This is X-Men The Next Dimension, which was a one-on-one fighting game. It kind of has a bit of a power Hearthstone feel to it because you can move around in 3D. It's not a 3D fighter on a 2D plane like you see a lot of the times. And the levels themselves have a lot of like depth and where you can go. There's a lot of destructible elements in it too. I just remember really enjoying this game in like my early 20s, but I can't figure out how to control it. But PlayStation 2 was running perfectly smooth. I only tried out a handful of games on it. Obviously your mileage is probably going to vary, but I feel like, you know, I'm confident enough in what I've played with PlayStation 2 to fully recommend it on the system. So add PS2, add GameCube to the list. But what if you want a little bit more? Another Nintendo system that has gone by the console wayside. I, of course, am talking about the Nintendo Wii Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Oh boy. Oh boy, this was running flawlessly. Absolutely flawlessly. Once again, the Wii, much like the 3DS, I didn't have a bunch of games to check out on it, but I felt like this is probably a good indicator just because it's a pretty graphically intensive game. There's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of special effects as well. So I felt like checking out this game. So Wii stuff, I'm confident in saying that pretty much everything will probably run absolutely fine with this system. You know, there might be an outlier here or there. Of course, you got to factor in motion controls, so you might need a Wiimote and like a USB sensor bar and stuff like that. But considering the price point that we're at with this system, I am thoroughly impressed with this mini PC. I did try out some Wii U stuff. I tried out Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, and I got about 50 frames per second on the game. I didn't adjust any settings or anything, so I maybe could have gotten a little bit more out of it, but I'm not expecting Wii U. I tried some PlayStation 3 on it as well. I tried Ridge Racer 7, and unfortunately, it got to the title screen and did a hard freeze on me. But anything under like Nintendo Wii, and when we're talking about handhelds, you know, your 3DS and a PSP and below, like this thing can handle it, dude. This thing can handle it. If you're looking for Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, Nintendo Switch and stuff like that, obviously a $200 or sub $200 mini PC isn't going to be your answer. But if you're looking just for a small form factor, something to put some ROMs on a hard drive, or buy a hard drive preloaded with ROMs and emulators on, and then just play some retro games, I think this is a great option. So I'll have links to everything I used for this video in the description box down below, so you can get it set up just like this. But yes, thoroughly impressed with this. If you're on a budget and you're looking for an easy, clean install, just system to play retro games, I think I finally found one. Let me know what you guys think. Be sure to like the video, and as always, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.